Homecast.
Hi everyone, today I invite two of our guests, Anna and Izzy, in my Homecast. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
Would
you.
you guys to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Izzy Eastick and at Falmouth Uni, which is how I know Emily. Yeah.
I'm basically the same, apart from my name's Anna Harris. I've also just graduated from Fine Art, and again, that's how I know Emily.
Yeah, so thank you so much for taking your time to actually come to myself Homecast.
Not a problem.
And just slightly to bring up what is about my project as well. So this year I'm like inviting 12 guests, and based on I invite them and bring their objects and their story and receive from the message and paint a story again. So I'm so excited to see what objects you guys been bringing to me and share your experience and story as well. So yeah, what objects or story you guys been bringing up to me? Would you mind to share about it?
Absolutely, we've just got to decide who goes first.
You go for it.
Okay, so I brought my chicken, and I'd like
so
to highlight
adorable.
for the listener, this is not a real chicken. It's a chicken doorstop. So it's kind of like a cuddly chicken, but he's got quite a weight to him.
It's quite round.
He's very round and really comforting to hold, I'm finding, which I haven't held him in a while, so it's nice to hold him. I think, and I do feel bad that I've slightly forgotten his name, but I think I called him Gerald when I first got him. And essentially, I think I got him... maths. When was 2016, 2017? How many years ago was that? 5? Maybe 5 or 6 years ago?
I'm not good at math. So yeah, probably 5 or 6 years ago.
So I got him 5 or 6 years ago. He's not like a cuddly toy that I've grown up with or anything. I think it was one of those, I don't know if you had this, but when you're kind of getting ready to go to uni and kind of you get a list of things you should take with you, and everyone always says a doorstop. And it's kind of that thing of when you go to uni, you'll prop your door open and that's how you make friends, that sort of thing. So that's basically the exact reason why I got Gerald, because I think I was first going to go to uni, if I'm getting my dates right, in about 2017. So I bought him, I think he was on a family holiday, maybe in Wales. I just saw him in a little second-hand shop and I was like, I want that one. I want that chicken. And they brought me a different one out from the back and I was like, no, I want the one on the shelf. Like a little child, even though I was definitely maybe 18 or 19 at the time. And yeah, so he came with me to my first university, which was, I started uni at Cambridge doing natural sciences. So he was he's kind of travelled with me from that. And I think... Yeah, I don't think he worked as a doorstop because the door was slidey in my first accommodation was really weird. It was almost an office block. An office of my tutor was opposite where I slept. It was really bizarre. So yeah, I had him trying to prop open my door, but I don't think he really worked. So he just was a little mascot. And then so I kind of did a little bit at Cambridge, and then I realised that I not hated science, but I didn't want to do science all the time, so I hated it at that time. And so I left Cambridge and then did an art foundation, and then obviously came to Falmouth, and he came with me to Falmouth too. I'm trying to remember in Chuk, which was our first year accommodation, if he would have worked as a doorstop. I have a feeling the doors were too heavy for him.
I think the doors were quite heavy at Chuk.
So basically, he's never worked as a doorstop. He's made me no friends, but I enjoy his presence in my life.
He is a friend in himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, he's just kind of, he's travelled with me, and I suppose, I think it's maybe not the most exciting of stories, but I feel like there's some themes in there somewhere about friendship and life, and I feel like that period of time where you kind of make that transition from living at home to going to uni, especially if it's a bit of a bumpy ride and you go back and forth a little bit, is a very interesting time of life. So that's what Gerald represents to me in a very fun and playful way.
It's also a choice decision as well. It's because you yourself said you're sort of in Cambridge and sort of doing science and stuff, and you jump into fine art. It was just a really big difference of subjects. So how do you find it? Do you actually find a struggle when you transfer to a different university, or
I think the peak of struggle was at Cambridge, because obviously like I went to like that was the first time I'd gone to university, and it was a very big deal. Like it was I don't think I'd quite emotionally wrapped my head around how intense it is to, and I'm sure you got this heightened, to be like left in a new place and then be like, oh no, I don't know anyone, I don't know where I am, I don't know what I'm doing. Like you don't kind of, I wasn't emotionally prepared for how much of a complete like change of life that was. And then for it to be, obviously Cambridge is quite an intense university. We were actually speaking about this earlier in terms of like, I think Falmouth is nice because it's a bit less competitive, whereas Cambridge is a very like competitive place. And then when you're studying a subject that you don't like, it was very unenjoyable for me at the time. So actually like the biggest struggle was choosing to leave that, because obviously it's like quite a big deal. It like it's easy to look back now and be like, oh, and then I left. But it's like at the time, like actually coming to that decision was difficult. But then actually when I came to Falmouth, I found it a lot easier, because I was like, well, I've done this before. Like I was so ready to leave by that point. I was like, I tried to do this already and I came back. So like, yeah, Falmouth, that bit was easy.
I'm quite glad. So do you, just a bit personal, but do you have any support from anyone's, like based on like, oh, I want to have a big decisions now? Did anyone sort of like, oh, you shouldn't?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. So I'm very lucky in that my parents were always, I think a lot of parents, if somebody's, you know, if their child turned around and was like, I want to drop out of uni, particularly if that uni was, you know, like Cambridge, would be like, are you sure about this? Whereas my parents, all things considered, you know, were pretty okay with it. I think because they'd known I'd been struggling a bit from the off, so it maybe wasn't a complete surprise to them, although I did very much make my own mind up and then tell them. I think maybe, I don't think there was anyone who was ever overtly like, oh no, this is a terrible idea. But I think because I did that thing where I kind of bottled it all up and then made my decision and then just started telling people, to a lot of people it maybe seemed like it just came out of nowhere. So maybe some of my friends were a bit like, in my best interests, they were trying to be like, are you sure? That's a big decision. At that point I was like, I am sure, and I don't need more questioning, I've made my decision. But I can completely understand, and I think I even did it to another one of my friends. Like she did the same thing, she chose to leave, and I kind of did the, are you sure? And then she was like, yes, I'm sure, I don't need that. And I was like, oh, of course, like I should know that that's not helpful. So I get that it's very easy to do that, but generally it was all smooth sailing and I had lots of supportive people around me. So yeah,
that is the wonderful things. Thank you so much, Anna.
That's all right.
How about you, Izzy? Can you share about your object as well?
Yeah, so my object is actually hidden on my body somewhere right now. It's my ring, so I always wear it, and it's a very pretty ring. I can describe it for the listener.
Yeah.
It's
Yes,
gold.
please.
It's kind of got almost like a Celtic knot. It's not like got any gemstones or anything, it's just like a gold band with like a Celtic knot and some like almost like chain pattern going around it. But it was my grandma's, so I was really, really close with my grandma. This is my dad's mum. And we actually all lived together until I was 11, I think, 10 or 11, around that kind of age. And when we ended up moving house, we actually deliberately moved house, so they are a 5-minute drive away. I mean, we've timed it, it's exactly 5 minutes. They live just around the corner, and I used to see them, even when we moved, I'd go to their house probably at least twice a week, so we were really, really close. And unfortunately my grandma was diagnosed with terminal cancer when I was, I think, 13, and it was pancreatic cancer, so it was quite quick. I think she was maybe diagnosed around Christmas, and I think she died in maybe like March or April. So do you know what I mean? It wasn't like a long time, because pancreatic cancer is usually quite aggressive. So when she died, I actually wasn't in the country, and I found out 2 weeks later because I was volunteering in Kenya, and she died the day that I left. So my parents deliberately didn't tell me because they didn't want me to, you know, obviously be stuck in another country sobbing my eyes out for 2 weeks. And when we came back, my granddad sort of said, like, you know, if you'd like to go through, you know, her jewelry, for example. Like, please go and have a look, like take anything, because it's also worth mentioning I'm the only woman of my generation in my family. So I have a brother and I have 6 male cousins.
Wow.
So it's quite a male dominated family. So obviously jewelry usually is passed down like the women. So my granddad was very much like, yeah, like go have a look, take some jewelry. And because I was obviously later finding out a lot of the stuff had already been taken, so there was a CD that I really wanted that someone else in the family had kind of taken anyway. And I'm not a massive jewelry person, to be honest. I never really have been, particularly not rings. I don't wear rings. Like, I like a good funky earring, but it's rare to find a grandma that also likes a good funky earring.
Yeah.
And I was going through this jewellery box and there just wasn't really... Like, I took a couple of bits, which I still have. But I remember that my grandma would always wear these earrings that were like gold Celtic knots. They'd also been taken by someone else.
Oh my goodness.
And I was looking through her jewellery box and I came across this ring. And obviously, I don't really remember ever seeing her wear it. But because it's the same pattern as the earrings she wore, I kind of immediately was like, ooh, maybe that would be quite a nice reminder. And weirdly, I tried it on and it is the perfect... It's like it was handmade for me. It fits perfectly.
Wow.
Which was also quite nice. Like, that was a nice kind of feeling of like I genuinely don't think a measured ring could fit me as well as this ring does. Like, it's the perfect fit. I was like, this is really lovely. But I wore that, I think I got that the day of her funeral, and I've worn it every single day since. I don't take it off to sleep. I don't take it off to shower. I think the longest I've taken it off for is when I make sweet potato gnocchi, because the dough like kind of gets into it and it gets really like sticky and kind of gross. So I take it off then. So I think the longest I've had it off in... How old am I? How old? Oh my god, how
23.
old am I? I'm 23. Oh, that was terrifying. I was like, oh, am I 19? Am I 24?
Forever young.
So, like I said, I think my grandma died when I was 13. I'm 23 now. So it's coming up to the 10-year anniversary of her death. And I have literally worn this every single day for 10 years. And like I said, the longest I've had it off my body has been about an hour while I'm making gnocchi or something. So that's the object I bought because I really like it. And I had this weird thing of like, I've been so busy today that when I kind of got home and I was like, right, I need to find an object. And I kind of had this moment of like, oh, I could like maybe do that, but that's at my studio. And maybe I should get this, but I don't know. And then I was like, what? Why am I looking for other things? Like, I wear this ring every day. Like, I'll just bring that. Because I think it's got quite a nice story as well. Like, it very much... I don't notice I wear the ring anymore, obviously. But I think on the times that I do stop and notice it, like, it's always quite a, like... No, just a nice feeling. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is like a nice reminder of something, of someone I really love. So, yeah, I thought I'd bring this.
Thank you so much. And also, I'm so sorry, like, you suddenly bring up, like, the memory from it. But can you able to share about the relationship from your grandma as well? Because I noticed, like, you guys been having really strong bonding from it. But I would like to know about more, but maybe you could share about the relationship from it.
I'd love to.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we obviously lived together. So my whole family lived in one big house. I think the most there was at one point was maybe like 15 of us. So it was a really big house. And we each had like our own little section of the house. So I'd like knock on my grandma and granddad's door and be like, hello. But I think my grandma in particular I was really close to because I obviously am the only granddaughter, which already gives me a little bit of a head start.
Like special.
Yeah. But I think actually we're very similar personality wise, and my dad, I'm very similar to my dad as well. My dad is obviously very similar to grandma as well. Like the three of us are all quite similar, I think. And I just think she was the type of person that was really like, at least the memory I have of her is obviously she was very loving, like, you know, very caring. Like I loved her a lot. But I think she really was like quite a strong person, but not I don't know if this is maybe slightly cliche saying that like sometimes women in particular have that thing of like they're kind of, you know, she was so knowledgeable, she was so intelligent, like she loved gardening, she was always quite kind of like loving and soft, but like she was just so like, I always kind of felt like she had a really good like inner strength to her, which was really nice that she kind of had both. Like she was this lovely soft like caring person who also was a really strong and like a great role model for me. So I was really close to her. I was really close to her. Like she used to buy me books because obviously I love to read. She actually bought me my first ever like portfolio like for putting art in. I've still got it, it's great.
Oh, wow.
So she was always really supportive of like what I wanted to do. She was a really cool person.
Thank you. I mean, I'm so glad like you guys having sort of like, even though you guys been shared different objects, but sort of related with like family and supportive stuff. It's actually like from love, and generally I feel like it's so important that like sort of we having each other is not like you're alone and something. And sort of I would like to bring up a other question as well. You guys ready?
Yeah. I think.
I love the dramatic pause. You ready for this?
So, what is the most important things that you have learned in your life, and what was your life like before learning, and what was your life like after you learning it? It's like a really funny questions, but sort of I feel like it would be really nice to brought it up based on like the support, energy, vibe, and also the family as well. With guys to say about it and share about the experience from it.
Do you want me to go first again, or do you want to go first?
I'm genuinely happy with either.
Cool, shall I? I'll go first for continuity. I really don't mind.
We'll go with that.
Sorry. Well, I mean, I guess so. It's a big question, but I think there's like an answer that springs to mind from my little chicken story that I think I'll go with. So was the wording of it the most important thing you've learned in your life? Or an important thing you've learned? Yeah. Well, I guess what the whole changing course thing taught me was that like it's so important to pick to follow things that you're interested in and that like bring you joy, which potentially sounds obvious, but it kind of clearly took me until that age to learn the importance of it. I think it's very easy, or when I was at school, like it was kind of, I very easily fell into the whole like just follow what you're good at, or like kind of good grades is the most important thing, because that's definitely something that the school system encourages. And so when it came to choosing like a uni course, I was just like, oh cool, like I'll choose, you know, physics. I'm good at that. That'll get me good monies in the future. And then when I got there, like I said, I was just kind of like so unhappy all of the time, and I was like, this doesn't seem a great way of living. And so it was obviously like a big risk to change what I was doing, and there's a load of kind of like financial implications that come with that, in terms of arguably art isn't the most
like earning money. Sort of like you can't support your living course or something. I think that is like quite common from where I brought up as well. So I mean, I mean, we don't mind. Well, we're just going to say the truth. It's a bit of a struggle, but I'm like, you know, I've never regretted changing, and I still don't regret doing it. So I think that is something that's a very clear kind of moment in my life where it was like, oh, that's what it was like before, in that I was constantly just trying to achieve the best, but not actually really taking that much time to think about what I like doing. Honestly, don't know how I survived for so long like that. I think I wasn't unhappy. Like, I think I was lucky in that, like, at school I was kind of, I did suit that environment, which is probably why I was okay, because I like enjoyed the variation of doing different subjects, and I had my little extracurricular activities. Like, I was kind of ticking all the boxes, and I was like getting by fine. And then when everything changed and you're suddenly just concentrating on this one thing, and your life's been kind of taken apart a little bit, not to be dramatic, but like you've suddenly got to find your friends and find your hobbies all over again. And I feel like it's very clear how I was then and how I am now, and it's still, you know,
it's for everyone. Like, it's still a struggle of kind of, you can't just do what you enjoy all of the time. Like, there's still a whole kind of balancing act to be had and yada yada yada. But yeah, that was the before and after learning moment that I thought of.
That's just quite nice, actually. And also, like, you brought up from a change. I think a change is like a really big word as well, because I think, like, based on everyone been changing their every moment, and also sort of accepting a new chapter, I would say uni is like a new chapter for us as well. And yeah, I always feel like you've been brought up, like, from changing and, you know, accepting the things that you can't be what you want to do all the time, and this is, like, quite important to know what you want, and also to be the balance point from over fear from life, I think, in general. How about you, Izzy? What do you think about this question? Like, do you want me to bring up the question again?
I think we're okay. I think I kind of have an answer. I'd say maybe mine is slightly less well defined than Anna's. But I kind of thought that, again, obviously with the story I just kind of told about my grandma and that, I don't know how to phrase it, but almost like recognizing your own strength, or kind of, I guess for me, part of recognizing my own strength was accepting that I can't make everyone happy all the time. And, like, you do have to have difficult conversations. Sometimes people upset you and you need to, like, verbalize that. Sometimes, like, maybe you need to cut off relationships with people who, like, you know, are just, it's not serving you.
Right for you.
Yeah. And I think that was quite a big thing for me. Because I felt like I had that in a few different instances. And I think it's still very much an ongoing process. So I'm not sure I can really speak for how I feel after, because I feel like I'm sort of still going through it now. But even compared to maybe like 5 years ago, I feel like I'm infinitely more confident. And that's, you know, outward confidence in that I feel okay doing like coming on a podcast, or like if I had to do a presentation for uni or something, or even coming to uni. Like, I was exceptionally lucky that when I moved to uni, my transition was super easy. Like, I was so relaxed. I was a bit too relaxed, I think. Like, my dad just kind of dropped me off and he was like, all right, well, I'll see you at Christmas. I was like, yeah, bye. And it was fine. And I think actually, yeah, the amount of confidence I've gained just from recognizing that actually, yeah, like I am a really capable person, and like I am strong, I can be confident, I can do these things if I set my mind to it. I think that's made like such a big difference. So it's not that I was ever unsure of myself. I always think I have quite a good sense of self. And I think that's largely down to the people who raised me, because they've always been, you know, like really supportive and very loving and that. So I always feel like I've kind of had a good sense of who I am. But I think it's a bit different, like, obviously when you're growing up and you're starting to like become independent or like move away, it can be interesting trying to navigate how that strength comes out. So I found that quite an interesting thing, because like I said, I think me now compared to me 5 years ago are two weirdly similar people, and yet also weirdly like totally different people as well. So yeah, I'm not quite sure if that answers your question, but that was sort of what came to mind.
I think it's a really good like answer. I mean, there's no like right or wrong, I would say, because everyone like facing different like stuff, different like story, different path. And honestly, it's like wonderful like how you brought it up from like you being strong, because I was thinking like based on you sharing about your grandmother is a really strong person. It's sort of like a reflection on like a role model from the generation from your your dad, from your grandma, and sort of is like educate from you, and you didn't realize it. It's like because of that, and you actually slightly changed to be that type of person, or maybe that's why how you've been like stronger and you've been more confident. It's like an experience. So it's like really lovely. I mean, thank you guys for being sharing like please experience. Okay, so there's another questions I would like to ask you guys. It's like, what made you feel inspired or like your best of yourself?
You going first again for
I don't mind.
continuity?
Do you have an answer?
I feel like I could probably wing it.
Okay, well you go then. You go. I'll break the continuity after you.
So I think the reason I can answer this quite quickly is because I've actually been asked this question really recently. So I sort of almost feel like I'm prepared.
I was like, perfectly for you. It's like a question for you.
But I think for me, the times that I feel my best or the most inspired are when I'm around people who are also creative. And I think it's when you have those like really good conversations where you just feel like you could, like the conversation is just going, you know? Like you've been talking for hours and it's still going. And I think that's always quite nice because I feel like I'm quite an introverted person and my social battery runs out quite quickly. So I really value my alone time. I need a lot of space from people. But also I do find that if I'm in the right situation, people give me energy. But I think it does have to be people who, are willing to kind of have like a really good two-way conversation with you, or, you know, discuss like interesting theories or concepts, like come across new things, like new thoughts pop into your head. Like I always find that really good. And I found whenever I was at uni and I got really stuck on something, or, you know, got like artist block or just felt really like kind of overwhelmed, I always found that like having a chat with Anna or like any of my other friends who were also in a similar position was the most helpful thing to move me past that. Because I also think I may be someone who sits in my own head a little bit. Like I kind of just sit and think. And then when I can't figure it out, I just sit and think some more. So I think having someone in my life that I can like verbalize things to and bounce ideas off, I found from experience that's when I'm at my best, is when I'm around people who bring out the best in me, I think.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, not to jump on the bandwagon.
Well, I see you're about to jump on the bandwagon.
It was infuriating because as you started talking, I was like, I think I'm gonna say like people, and then you were like, so people. I was like, damn it. But I agree in that, like, there's something. Again, I liked the wording of the question. You said like, what makes you feel your best? I think it was, and I agree in that. I think we both have very similar tendencies to kind of. I think I want to be on my own, and then when I'm actually forced to socialise, I'm like, I actually really liked that.
I feel like the same actually.
And it's that thing of, I think it's a comfort zone thing and a bit of a validation thing, in that it's tempting to say like, oh, I feel my best when I've achieved something, but that's the kind of external validation. And actually, realistically, I feel like I spend most of my life kind of chasing like achievements. But when I achieve those things, I don't actually feel that. I don't feel sad, but I don't feel like
Elated
a rush of joy.
Yeah.
Whereas like actually those little kind of rushes of joy do come from, like you were saying, when you're having a really good chat with someone, or, and again, it's got that comfort zone thing of, if you've pushed yourself out of your comfort zone and it's kind of, it's gone well. There's that, it's that similar thing. And I think there's quite a big overlap between that and socialising, and not to make it really fine art and networking, but I think I find that particularly recently I've been trying to like make an effort to go to more sort of I hate the word networking because it makes it clinical, but you know, like more events where you're going to meet like-minded people, and it's always scary to go into them because you're like, oh, what if no one talks to me, and like and then you kind of go and actually you do talk to some people and you have a really nice chat because you know you're at an event that you've all chosen to go to, and you come away and you're like, oh, I did it, and I've made some, you know, some new friends, and it's all like, I feel great kind of thing. So I agree, basically. It's kind of chatting to like-minded people and getting to know new people.
Lovely, thank you guys. I was sort of based on you guys' conversation, and when I was like I was like thinking there's a few words that I want to recap for. It's like overcome, accept change. Also, it's sort of like listen to your body. Because I feel like there are quite a few words that remind me to how to really listen to your body, that how you've been feeling, and also try to be overcome and try to open up to people. So I mean, sometimes I've got like a bit anxiety from talk to lots of people in one go, and it's like quite overwhelming. It's like I don't know what's going on, and you know, sometimes it's usually like, I mean, sort of brought up from fine art now, you know, it's always like lots of people love to chat with you and sort of like, oh, what is your work? And you know, you sort of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, I don't know how to talk about my work. I don't know what's going on. It's just like, you're so scared that people would bite you in some way. It's like, they don't harm you. It's like, but it's like, because like people so excited and energetic, like want to know about you a lot, and just not like sort of ready or prepared for that. But sort of in some way that's like happy accidents, because of you don't expect it, like people being open up to you in like a first meet, or you know, the first impression. So I think it's like it's such like a gift in some way. But yeah, I mean, thank you guys. I feel like I would like to ask you guys, would you mind to sort of like share to the audience or to anyone that if something you wish you would like to learn beforehand, or something that is quite important to know now?
So another kind of a life lesson, something to take forwards.
Before we end up the
I
Homecast.
do have one.
Please go for it, because I do not.
So something that I heard someone recently say about, I think they said that it was the point of their art, and I really liked it. About art also generally is, and it's going to sound really simple, but they said the point of their art was to make people pay attention. And I really like just the idea of, just paying attention. Like, I think it's so easy to kind of go onto automatic pilot and drift your way through the world and kind of do the default routes, but kind of stopping and slowing down and paying attention to the little things, all the big things, just paying attention, I think is a valuable, I don't know if I can say it's a life lesson as such, but I hope that vaguely answers what you wanted.
I mean, I accept any questions or any answer. Honestly, I mean, it's a gift because you guys bring up like the things that you gave it to me that I don't expect it, you know. Okay. So it's always good to know anything. I mean, I'm not like knowledgeable. I would say like I'm like 0 because of you guys. I will gain the experience from 0 to maybe in the future like 100 or something more. But it's a long journey. But I'm thinking, it's like even the tiny simple things you don't realize is because it's like too simple, and sometimes just like people want to jump over the process a lot, and just like I want to get the end, I know I want to have the result, but sometimes I think simple and process is always really important. So it's actually really like a life lessons, and also it's important and we need to realize it. How about you, Izzy? What do you think about it? Or you don't need to like say that if you doesn't have it any.
I have actually thought of something.
Oh, go for it.
So as a bit of context, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Okay. I think the laugh says all you need to know. Sorry. I'm a real perfectionist. And like, I think a lot of people have the misconception that a perfectionist is quite a nice thing to be, like, oh, you just kind of do it until it's perfect. Perfect doesn't exist though, and it means it's quite an exhausting way to live, and I can't say I love that quality. Like, I'm trying quite hard to let go a little bit and relax. And I recently read in like this workbook that I was given, that if you're a perfectionist, one of the things you should remind yourself or tell yourself or kind of have as like some kind of like mantra is 80% is the new 100%. And it's so simple, but it really like, it's been lodged in my brain since I read it, and I think it's just really resonated with me. And actually every day now, like if I'm ever feeling like a little bit lazy or like I'm procrastinating, because obviously a large part of being a perfectionist is that you do a lot of procrastination, and I do a lot of procrastination. So every time I'm procrastinating, or every time that I'm like talking myself out of going to the studio, I kind of just remind myself, I'm like, 80% is the new 100%. Like, it doesn't matter if all I do is put away like 2 bits of clothing in my room, or if I go to the studio and I literally go for 10 minutes, like that 10 minutes I've spent in the studio is 10 minutes more than I would have done otherwise. And the likelihood is if I go for 10 minutes, I'll probably stay a bit longer than 10 minutes as well. Like I'm already there, I'm already doing the work.
Yeah.
I think it's just making yourself do those first steps, and I found that that's been quite useful for me. So that's my little nugget of wisdom, because it seems to be working wonders for me at the moment. So it might come in useful for someone else.
I find it really useful. Thank you so much. I'm like the first person like raising my hand. Yes, I find it very useful because I got like a stressful like process at the moment from uni, my final year, and also it actually reminded me of my first podcast, like Homecast from my guest Felix. They were talking about if you can't focus on like multiple tasks, focus on one thing from the starting point, and when you focus it is actually like, even though it's not like a lot, but actually in one of the way in the contact they actually assist, and also it work because you actually do something. It's just like not love nothing.
Yeah, you're not like overwhelmed by kind of everything. You're like, right, just this one thing, I can do this one thing. So I think it was so lovely to learn, and I feel like I've been knowledgeable from so many things today. Just like in like I don't know, like 36 minutes long. It just made me feel like, wow, I need to keep noticing. And thank you so much, guys, for being here. Thank you for having us,
and thank you for the wonderful food again. Keep saying it. You've been a wonderful host. It's been really lovely.
Bless you guys. Thank you so much.